Progressive Mindset Podcast. My name is Natalie Potts, personal development and business coach, and each week I'll bring you an inspiring message or person to help you unlock creating a life full of energy and happiness. And today I'm going to begin with a quote from Jim Rohn, who said, "The ultimate reason for setting goals is to entice you to become the person it takes to achieve them." So no surprises that my podcast today is all around goal setting. And I really want to bring this to life because we're going through a period of time at the moment where we're coming into 2020. It's been a pretty dire year for most people on the whole, but then I think when you take a step back and you reflect, there's obviously some absolute gems and wins in there. It is how we choose to look at things, but a general consensus may be that it's been that year that we're quite ready to get rid of and say goodbye to. So what does that then lead us into? 2021. So I tend to do goals near the end of December into January, and I try and think big, and I do my vision board, and I get my ideas out on paper, and I write things down, then I revisit it, but then I rush it because I want it done by January the 1st. And this year I've just taken a bit of a different approach, and I've really started going back to the drawing board around how do I really set great goals. And this came about with working with a client the other day, and I think where I was being mentored as well myself, to say that sometimes even when you are in a place where you feel that you have knowledge and you're able to share this with others and help others on these types of areas, nothing detracts from you having to go back to the root of where you started mastering your craft yourself. So as a coach, GROW is the model that I use within coaching. So it's around goal setting. You then look at the reality of where you're at. You then look at the options with your client, and then you move forward and get actions. And then that's that part of that commitment element. So goal for me is just, it's in my fabric. I'm conditioned to think, what's your goal? What's your focus? What's your objective? What's the aim? It's so natural. It just becomes organic when you start to study, learn, and then start to embrace it and practice it. So I need to reset and go back to, how do I get great goals? Because what I actually noticed last year is that my goals weren't big enough. That literally, and they weren't big enough because it goes back to that saying of, do your goals scare you? And I look back and think, no, they were quite nice. And we don't often get everything from just being nice. We need to be different to that. It's a really generic word, isn't it? I don't like the word nice. So I've gone to look at some people out there that inspire me and empower me and think, how do they goal set? And, I've researched it, I've looked at it, and it's drawn me back to some key points that they all do. It's a little bit like when they say, go and look at what successful people do in the morning. What are their habits? What are their routine? I've done exactly the same with goal setting the last few weeks. And I am setting goals now. And I did them last weekend, and I've looked at them this weekend, and I've gone again, they are not, insert swear word, they are not big enough. So I'm going to make them bigger. And I want to help you on this because sometimes I think it's a harder thing, or we procrastinate about it, or we overthink it. Just start it. Just get them down and enjoy this process of getting your goals ready for 2021. So where do we start? It's so exciting. I love setting goals. So everybody that has been successful has got goals. They had them, they've got them, they've built on them, they got bigger. So we can do the same. There is nothing that they do that we cannot do. So step one, and I'm a really big believer in steps. So I'm just working on a course at the moment, and it's about breaking things down and doing the steps, because we often think too much about the bigger things and not the smaller things to get to the bigger thing. So draw yourself in and focus really down. It's kind of like that kid that asks you 5 times, why? You need to start doing this with the ideas that you have as well, because then you'll get to the real root of the reason why you're doing things. And that's the biggest difference in knowing whether you are going to or just want to achieve your goals. So one of the biggest factors in setting goals is that you have to be specific. Yeah, you have to really know what you want. And if it's that you don't have the clarity, then you need to go and look at what that is. Okay, so you need to go and think about, what is it I really want? Where do I want to be in a year's time? Where do I want to be in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time? And start thinking big, but be specific. The easiest way to lead a life that is of inaction is just by being complacent around vague goals. Okay, you have to be clear. So don't just say, I want to earn more money. Write down what like how much money do you want to make and by when. Don't just say you want to have better relationships. Write down, I want to have relationships where I am empathetic and compassionate as a person. And I want to start doing this and getting feedback within 3 months from people about them. They've seen that in me. Really get specific. It might be a weight one. This is, very generic to a fitness goal, but I'm going to lose 15 pounds in the next 3 months, and then get that person, your client or yourself, and write that down, see it. So it is really about taking that step back and thinking big, thinking about what you want and writing it down that I will accomplish this by, when I accomplish this, I am going to. Because when you do that last part there, you start to describe how you will feel once you've accomplished that. And that's about going back to that quote around, you need to start thinking, as Jim Rohn just said, that the goal is because you are enticed into that goal to become the person that it takes to achieve that. It's exactly the same. So step 2, notice how the word want sometimes is a little bit unclear. When we're talking about goals, it's forward facing. It's not like therapy or counselling where we're going back to the past and we're drawing examples. It is in this moment now and it's going forward. The only time in coaching that sometimes it may be going back to the past is to say, can you share with me a time, or can you think of an example of a time when you had a really great strength within that area? What was it you did and what can you do now around that strength to help you with where you are in this scenario or with this example and this reality to move you forward? So all the time you're thinking about being in the present moment and forward facing. But when you start to say language like I am going to, it is more intentional than I want to. There is a huge difference here. And this is where the power of language is so poignant. And this is what I love about language is that I'm a firm believer that you can't actually just say something to somebody, go, oh, I didn't mean that. Like, you did mean that. There was something in your mind that you considered and you thought about and that came into your subconscious, which is even stronger. And because it's those thoughts that just naturally happen. So, you've got other things that have happened to make that happen as a subconscious thought. So it isn't that you can just naturally brush off and say that, well, actually, I didn't mean that. Be intentional about what you are saying. And this is where sometimes some people need to slow down and they need to take time out and reflect on where they're at, opposed to always rushing ahead or saying the wrong thing. Just slow things down. It's like that monkey. If you've read The Chimp Paradox by, is it Steve Rogers? Don't quote me on that. But the chimp idea, the chimp, the brain, and the chimp, the computer, and the human, and these 3 areas in your brain. And it is about this chimp that takes over. So the chimp is emotional, and they say, give him a banana, box your chimp. So the banana might be that you're giving him that to then obviously distract him and things and keep him in the moment, but you want to be in control of that monkey, not those emotional thoughts that lead you then to do things that are probably detrimental to where you are at the moment and what you're wanting to achieve. So there is a powerful distinction between these two sayings in terms of I want and I'm going to. So forget what you want for the minute and think about what you are going to do. And I pause because sometimes it's important just to think this through, opposed from just listening and then wanting to think of what's the next thing coming up, etc. Because I find in podcasts sometimes that I'll actually write bits down and then I'm like, stop, start, stop, start. So take time to really think about what this means to you, because that's how it's going to make a difference. Step 3 is purpose. Know your why. So this is where you can start to think about the what being essential. What is it? Because what are you going to do and when? But it is this why that drives you. It is the why that drives you. So the most crucial part of the whole process of goal setting is the why. And so often clients struggle at the part of like the options, just exploring what they could do, not what they're going to do, what they could do as ideas. And they struggle to think of ideas because they haven't really grasped the purpose and the reason and the goal. Okay, so there's some real key questions which I'm going to come to at the end that you can ask yourself just around goal setting or even working with clients as well. So without a powerful why, you won't have the motivation. And when we don't have the motivation, we aren't inspired to do anything with that. And we then don't actually go and make a difference and impact. So then we find it really, really hard to get consistency. All of these things are worthwhile and take your time, and you have to know that it's not an overnight process. So a bit like where I said earlier at the start, that don't leave this to the end of December. Start doing it now. Start chipping away. Then let it be for a week maybe, and then go back to it the next week and just say, actually, do I still feel the same way about those, or what do I need to change? Talk about it with people as well, people that you trust, your advisors, your mentors, your coaches. Say, I'm really struggling with a little bit of this around a goal. What would you do? Or what do you think is going well out of that? What could I do better? And again, it's like sometimes that when we're in a constant cycle or environment or situation, we kind of shut off to things. We become quite tunnel visioned at points, and we need to have people that pull us back and say, what do you see? And oh, I see this, because people will see different things. So this is why it's really important to have the right people in your network around you. So when you have a unique and inspiring why, then you will just have this absolute momentum and you will be inspired to take action on it. Okay. So the easiest way to cultivate an inspiring why is to step outside sometimes of yourself. Okay. And think about, how will what I want affect me and others? Now, this is just like kind of thinking out loud. It's not anything you're going to do. There's no commitment in this area, but you need to think differently. How can I improve myself while improving the lives of others? I make the point about others because so often with some purpose, it is about people who find that they love what they do, or they found their purpose in life, are people that are serving others. So think about what would they think on this as well. And that again goes back to what I just said at the start about looking at the people around you that can help you with this as well. So then you need to reframe your what to include your why. So you might go back to the one about like fitness and just say, I want to get in better shape because I don't want my physical fitness to be a limit in anything I do. It's a real why. Or you might say that I want to lose weight so that when I walk on the beach with my partner, I feel good in a bikini. I feel good naked. I have better sex, whatever it is. Really don't think that this is silly. This is really real. You need to, again, not be vague. You need to go back to this. And you don't have to share this with anybody if you don't want to. It is for you, but you do need to challenge yourself on this. You might say that I want to get a raise or a promotion because I really want to feel that I've achieved my full potential. Write that down. It's great to see it differently in front of us. Your why must come to overpower your what. Okay, so it is a motivation that will inspire you to then take action. And often when we're stuck and feel we don't succeed, your why will get you through. And that's again what I just said. You have to focus on that. So remember, the process is about the process and it's not about the end destination. You have to enjoy the journey. You have to trust the process. You have to sometimes let things be, even when you think that you're not sure whether it's going to turn out for you, because you're going to learn from it anyway. The next step is to make it measurable. So you have to have a time element to it. Okay, you have to get something here where it is tangible and you can quantify your goal. I love that word, quantify. So if you don't measure the goal, how will you know when you've got there? Simple, right? It sounds a simple question, yet so many of us don't get to the end of our goals because we don't think about the end part and what success looks like. And I'm not saying now to get hooked up on the end, but you do have to have that vision. You do have to have something that's compelling you and driving you towards that. And some people, again, are very different. Personally, because I've been challenged on this before, I am very driven to pleasure. I'm not really driven out of pain. So that's just for me. A lot of people say that no, you have to be driven from pain into pleasure. You don't want to be there anymore. You want to. I don't think that either is there's no right or wrong. It's what's right for you and what works for you. You just need to be honest with yourself about that. And again, not sway to others. And it's quite so for me to sometimes say that to people, they're like, well, you're wrong. And I'm like, well, I'm not wrong because it's my opinion and it's what I believe is true to me. And it's what's worked for me with my goals. So that's just the way it is. That's that. But again, have that strong confidence in yourself that you're doing what's right for you. Because again, if you don't, these aren't your goals then, are they? They're somebody else's. So really start to think about how you measure the goal. How will you know how best to improve? Kind of what is the standard of this metric? So you can compare it and know. So maybe you will look at day to day or week to week. What is it? How do you know that you can review it and say what's going really well and what you could do better? Make it memorable is the next step, and dream big. And this is so the point where people just get lost, or they hold themselves back, or they think that, oh, so someone will think something of me, or they have an opinion of me in this way, and they don't dream big enough. This is really where you can do it. And this is where it's powerful just doing it on your own. As you begin this wonderful process, you will have the urge to start small. Trust me, you are literally going to start small. So like I did last week, and then I woke up this morning and I was like, what is that goal about? I literally looked at it and I was like, nah. All of those are like the start foundation. I am going to raise these goals big. So once you then start to do that, you're going to look at inventing what you hope to improve. So sooner rather than later, you will have countless goals and tasks. And that doesn't actually matter. You don't want to worry about that part. But they will only slow you down. So you need to identify right at the start what you really, really want to think big, and then break it down. So instead, you need to make it memorable. So I'm just going to go through it again so it's really, really clear. But you have to start small. But you get to small in terms of the process and the start by thinking big. So really start to think about, don't get hooked up on a small part here now. Think about what is the big goal? What's the vision? Is it, build it. And then as you start to look at the process and the next part and the actions, that's when you think small. So you really need to get clear here, because again, this is where people get so confused. Make it memorable, dream big. Don't worry about the small. That will come. Absolutely, that will be the key part in taking the steps. You'll want the small to the big, but don't get hooked up on that. And I say this over and over again because actually sometimes we need to have that emphasis in our minds so that we start to say, actually, this is the steps I need to take. This is what I need to do. Sometimes it's like studying something. You don't just study and read it once and think, okay, job done, it's in my mind. You have to keep doing it. You have to reiterate it. The practice is what makes you better at what you do. People get very frustrated when I'm mentoring around coaching because they want to be there straight away. But I'm like, just enjoy the process and learn it and understand that most of your success being a coach or whatever you're doing will come from just doing things over and over again. What went well, what didn't go so well, and then going again. That is when you start to get better at something and master your craft. So you have to do this with goals too. And I was doing it actually with someone, a client every week. We were doing it on goal setting within the corporate space. And again, I said, really think big with where you want to be in 6 months' time, and let's break that down. And they were really, really struggling to get the time part, to really get how do they measure it. And I just said, let's get down there, but then let's break it down. Let's go big and then work back, and then we'll get focused on the small that will create the big, and that how to. So by setting a large, ambitious goal, you'll begin to differentiate what really matters and what doesn't. And this is key. So really dream big and go for what you really want. Like, be ambitious. So one thing you could do to think big is to really think about a time when you think back and you reflect on something that's changed in your life 1 year from today. Yeah. What is that scenario? Where do you want to be next year? What will you be doing? What will you be feeling? Who will be around you? What will they be saying? What will they be doing? What will you be doing with them? Really start to think about it and imagine it and see it, especially if you're a visual learner. Maybe again, this is where vision board comes in so key for you, because that's tends something that works for me. That's why I'm sharing that. You might want to do a brain dump and write things down in terms of, opposed to not seeing it such a visual, but literally write it down and see it. And you might do it in a list form because you like lists and you're a different personality style. Do what's right for you. And then with that, when you've got those kind of ideas, write a letter celebrating your accomplishments, only literally like a few paragraphs, if that, and thank yourself for doing the things that you have helped yourself to achieve. Okay. Again, it is that part of just doing this. It'll feel weird. It'll feel clunky. Just give it a go. And then if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you, but you've given it a go. The more you get into the detail, the better. So it gives you the clarity you need to do and what you need to do and your why. So this is why it's really key that you do some of these exercises. Other things that you can do from this, that's kind of the looking at the steps, but you really need to get that time to it. When you're going to have achieved it by, what does that success look like? Hence why I just said about the kind of the year's time. But you can hold others to help you stay accountable to yourself. You just need to think about who they are and being the right people, because I've certainly had people in my life before where I've shared something with them and actually then they might have judged, or they said a comment, or they've said at a different time, they laughed at it. Actually, that's quite detrimental, and that has opposite effects on then how we will see our goals and going for them, and we won't dream big and we won't go and achieve them. So really think about who it is that you do share things with. Some people like to make them public, so I know that sometimes you go on social media and people are like, this is my goal, and again, that's really just finding out what works for you. It doesn't work for me. I can't bear doing that. I don't show anybody my goals. I literally don't, because I don't want to. They are for me. I might ask people in terms of sometimes how would you articulate getting more specific on this, or what do you think of the time space that I've given to that? If it's like I'm working with a coach and mentor, maybe on a goal around a financial goal, or thinking of a goal when to launch a product, etc. I might ask them what they think on that and get their opinion, because they've been there and done that, and I trust that person. So again, I'm talking about what is it that person has or will do that will give you confidence in sharing that. It's really, these are really powerful things here. We do goals, and it's not just doing this just to tick a box or to think about, it sounds nice, it's like a New Year's resolution. It's not. This is completely different. This is going to change your life. So if you want to make it public, do it. Give it a go. Celebrate your wins, though. This is so important, especially if you're a certain personality type, like dominant, or very driven. You're an introvert and you just kind of want to just crack on all the time. You don't often realize what it is to feel content, and you always want the next thing. And that's quite dangerous, because as I said, you don't feel content. You need to know, when you look back and think, actually, do you know, I've done really well. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for that, because that was bloody good what I've achieved, or I've really helped that person. I've really made a difference to how I feel. I've really made a difference to how others feel. You have to have those moments, because again, these are the parts that then will take you the next time to dream even bigger than that, or to help, and you're helping even more people with your goals, to serve people. So really, really think about what you're doing with each step of these. And this is around doing something that you're going to go and achieve. So earlier I said about some of the questions you can ask around goal setting. And this is just goals. We're not even looking at the reality of where you are, the options, and what you're going to do. This is just thinking about the goals. So when everything is in this area is happening, what will be going on for you? So what is it that is happening there? Really get crystal clear on that. Like I said earlier, what do you want to be doing? What do you want to be saying? What do you want others to be saying and doing? What difference does this make to you? So sometimes when people come and they say, oh, my focus is X, Y, and Z, or, then we break it down to one thing, I'll say, well, what difference does that, if you achieve that goal, what difference will it make to your life? And just really think about that. Because actually, again, if it doesn't, there's nothing wrong in that. This is this time when you need to really focus on the fact that not everything's going to work for you, but maybe be open-minded with that. and give it a go. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. What benefits will it bring to you? So again, really thinking about the benefits, like I said about the fact that I walk down the beach with my partner and I feel good in a bikini, or I have energy to get up out of bed every day. If the goal's around getting to bed on time and sleep, I don't know. Think a bit about what will be the benefit of that goal. When do you want to be in that position? So many people come to me and ask me to help them with goals, and then I do get deflated, I'll be honest, when they just don't put a time to it. And I'm like, brilliant. It's a brilliant goal. There's just no time on it. And it's because, again, they think small on that one. They've thought small too early. They haven't thought big and then worked backwards to that. So really always put a time to it. When do you want to be there? And this is probably maybe the scariest part, is to sometimes think, crap, like I've said like 2 months on that's scary. Or I don't know if I can achieve that. Well, think big, go for it. How will you know when you achieved it? So really, really key. Again, like I've said, what is motivating you? Because again, like, you might actually find that actually I don't really know what is motivating me on that. Maybe it's not. Maybe I need to think about that because there's another priority ahead of that I really want to go and achieve. How challenging is it for you? So I think that it's about being realistic, and you need to know it's achievable because that's how you can measure it. But you do need to have something that's going to stretch you too. And again, sometimes this is where your advisors can really, really help you on this, and mentors and coaches to really challenge you to think about, is this really challenging? Is this going to be a different outcome for you in what you want to achieve in life? Who is in control of this? So who is it? Who do you need to help you? Who could be impacted? Who will influence this? And how will it affect other areas of your life? And this is really key. So again, one of the key things that I'm working with clients is around just well-being overall, and having an energy for life and being curious, finding their purpose. So them finding their purpose and really focusing on goal there helps them to get clear on what they really want. So then when we look at doing their business, and that's what it's evolving to, they know already what their why is and their goals. So then we're moving into business. So then we you build on this. It's that compound effect again, kicking in, that ripple effect. So how will it impact other areas of your life? An example might be that I really want to start getting some more sleep, better sleep every single night. I want to get 7 hours, and I want to start achieving this consistently by the end of 2 weeks' time. Really, really get down to the grit of what that looks like and the step-by-steps, because it will make me feel that I've got more energy in the morning. I want to jump out of bed. I'll be able to make sure that I have more energy in the afternoons to get to the gym, and that will spur off and help me feel better as well about myself, because I'll then notice that I'll actually want to start eating better, and everything. Really start to think about, again, well, what will that do? What will that do? What will that do? What will that do? Kind of, or why? If you don't achieve this, how are you going to feel? And again, this can really help sometimes in really just drawing that motivation part and getting someone to think about, actually, I do really want this. This is the reason why I'm doing it. If I don't achieve this, I'm going to be in this place still, and I'm not probably going to be very happy, actually. And I know I deserve, want, and can achieve more in my life. So yeah, I really want this. Like, I'm 10 out of 10 wanting it. And then that's obviously something that you would talk to for everyone in terms of commitment to something. So where do you sit with that? But really think about those questions. That's a great example of some questions there to think about. And again, it's about doing chunks on this, step by step. Don't do it all at once. Just literally break it down. So you might start with 3 goals. You might think of 3 things you really want in a year's time, or you might think of 1. Don't go doing 10, because you're going to struggle. Tell you now, you're going to struggle. And if you don't, let me know, because I'd love to know what your kind of different take in it is, or I'd love to know how you do it, because I can't. So hopefully that's really helped to make you think about goals. Some of this will work for you, some of it won't. Just be open-minded, okay? That's all I'm asking, and that's all I'm hopefully sharing with you. Thank you for listening to my podcast. If you haven't yet listened to last week's, I had the beautiful Natasha Evans on talking about being sexy, not skinny. So check that out, and I'll add a little link in this episode. But please connect me on all of my social media. I'm at nassipottscoaching.co.uk, and I have got a little link on there at the moment to get involved with a newsletter, which is inspiration, stories, ideas, and things you can practice and take action on. And I've got a success guide on there to help you with the 5 successful tips that you need as a mindset perspective. And I've also just put on there about kind of social media prompts for 30 days because people are struggling to get that content and that engagement out there. So have a little look at that, and reach out to me. Let me know your questions. Let me know if you agree and don't agree with something. Happy to have a discussion. It's always great to see people's perspective on things and sometimes change the way I see things too. And let me know your goals. So if you're really struggling with any area of those steps, reach out and just say, this is not quite what I'm thinking, or I've got a question around this. I'm more than happy to help, so I'll be delighted to. So whatever you do, have a great day and have a great week.